Welcome back, everyone. Today we're making a video that I wish I wasn't making because I wish the events that we're going to discuss here never unfolded. But unfortunately, as of course all of you know, Charlie was killed, and the official narrative anyway, which there are a lot of holes in the official narrative, is that there was a man shooting from roughly 130 to 140 yards away from an elevated position with a 30-06 chambered bolt-action rifle with a relatively long barrel. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. And he was using 30-06 ammunition, and that it impacted Charlie's neck, and there was no exit wound. So when that was announced, I believe that was announced on Saturday, don't quote me on that, I got a ton of texts from people in the industry asking what I thought about that. I would tell them, and then this morning, because obviously it's Monday as of when I'm filming this, I'm not sure when it's going to be up, but this morning, pretty much all the conservative media agencies reached out to me, in one form or another, and asked if they thought, if I thought this was possible or plausible or insane or completely, complete nonsense, if that makes sense. During the time from when it was announced that there was no exit wound to when, now we're making this video, Alex Jones has made a video stating, and you guys can think whatever you want about Alex Jones, but it's an interesting insight, that the gentleman from TPUSA who he talked to said that the bullet went at a down angle into Charlie's back, essentially, and stayed there. So let's discuss. So first off, for many of you guys watching this, you might not be familiar with what we're talking about with a 30-06. 30-06 is the caliber that was the primary cartridge used by the U.S. military for both World War I and World War II, so it is a relatively old bullet design. So for example, this is a 5.56 projectile, this is a 3.08 projectile, and then next to it, that is a 30-06 projectile. Now, I show you guys this, not to make it seem like this is a gigantic bullet, which it is, it's a fairly large bullet, and 30-06 is a powerful round, no doubt about it. But compared to the 5.56, you'll see that the 5.56, the entire projectile case, powder, everything just sits in the case of the 30-06. Now, one thing to preface that with is that 30-06, again, when it was designed a long time ago, they didn't have as efficient powders as we have today. So in terms of ballistics, it's very, very similar to the 308. 308 is just a touch behind it, but they improved the powders a lot. So while this does look much larger, ballistically, they are very, very similar. So those of you guys who have experience or know people who have experience with 308, in terms of terminal performance, i.e. how a bullet performs in soft tissue, they're going to be extremely, extremely similar. So I just say that because a lot more people in 2025 have experience with 308 than they do with 30-06. So there is that just to start out with. So a few things about the shooting that we have to take into account. Again, I'm just going to talk about the official narrative. There are a lot of other narratives, a lot of other theories that I think many of them have some plausibility, but for the purposes of this video, we are just going to talk about the official narrative, sniper on the roof, 30-06, 130, 140 yards away, and the impact that we all saw. Of course, I will not be showing any of that, but if the video is horrible, and but if you saw it, some of the things that are in it are relevant to today's video. So there's that. So a few things about 30-06 is that, especially in 2025, there are bullet weights that are all over the place. Like this one here, I believe is a 168 grain projectile. So the grain just means how many units, if you will, of actual mass go into the bullet itself. So in 30-06 today, most of them are going to be between 150 to 180 grains in terms of size. However, there are a huge swath in terms of actual projectiles for this caliber. So, I mean, I'm sure there's weird ones out there that I'm not even thinking about, but they go all the way down to 110 grains, all the way up to 200 grains and over. And so one of the reasons you go for a smaller, and this has a lot to do with bullet design, but it's going to impact what I'm about to say here in a minute. One of the things with a lighter, longer bullet that you get in terms of performance when a bullet is flying through the air, it's called ballistic coefficient. Now, not all lighter weight projectiles are going to have a higher ballistic coefficient, but many of them will. So what the ballistic coefficient means for people who are not shooters, I'm going to try not to go into too many rabbit holes today, but these things are important if we want to understand the probability of the official story that we are being told today. So a higher ballistic coefficient bullet is going to go through the air with less resistance. That's essentially what it means. And those bullets tend to be stable, very stable, actually, when they're going through the air. However, when they hit soft tissue, they destabilize much more quickly and are more likely to tumble than a heavier grain projectile, and that just has to do with the mass of the actual projectile, right? So the mass of a heavier projectile is likely to keep going in the direction it was going if it is heavier. I think everyone kind of gets that. If you were to throw a boulder at something, it's going to be very different in terms of when it impacts a material than if you were to throw a small pebble at it, right? Well, the same thing is true here for the bullet weight. So that is something to consider. And as of right now, the FBI has released zero information at all about the actual projectile used. So again, going back to what I said earlier, the most common of the cartridges or the bullets that are used in 30-06 rather are between 150 to 180 grains. So keep that in mind. So with all that said, if you were to just ask me, what are the odds of a 30-06 projectile being shot at a downward angle? I think the angle from what I've seen online is anywhere from 8 to 12 degrees. Being shot at a downward angle, hitting someone in the neck, going into their chest cavity is, I would say it's very small, extremely small, but not impossible. And I realize many of you guys, I'm slow to this video. I was kind of on the edge as to whether or not I wanted to make it. But many of you guys have watched other people's videos where they're saying it's impossible. I get that, but weird things can happen with bullets when they get into soft tissue. Many of you guys have shot a lot of fleshy things. I have as well, particularly with 308. I've shot a lot of things with 308 over the years, and every now and then you see a bullet go in and exit somewhere at like a 90-degree angle or something like that. Those things absolutely do happen. And if you were just to ask me how probable is it that this story happened the way it's being reported by the FBI as well as the folks at TPUSA, I would say it is very low but not impossible. So just to put a number on it, right? So if this type of scenario happened 1,000 times, right? All the same factors that we're talking about, the angle, flesh, neck, etc. If all these things happened 1,000 times, I would expect to see a result like this maybe 1 or 2 times, possibly. Maybe. It's very unlikely that a bullet with the power of 30-06, which is a very powerful round, would not blow completely through and leave an exit wound. It's not impossible though. That is what I'm saying. Additionally, what I am saying is that I have seen the angles, I'm sure many of you guys have as well, from both the left side as well as behind Charlie a little bit, and you definitely don't see an exit wound. So I believe that whatever he was shot with, there was no exit wound. I do have some questions that I want to get to about that here in just a second based on a couple of videos I have seen. The chances of this happening, the way they're saying it happened, in my opinion, based on years of shooting armor, gel, animals, all types of things that you guys have seen here on the channel, they go up if it was a higher ballistic coefficient bullet. Again, going back to what I was outlining earlier, those are very stable in the air. However, when they hit soft, fleshy material, they destabilize much more quickly than heavier, low ballistic coefficient projectiles. So if it was like some sort of odd copper round or something like that, it is much more likely, I would give it a number like 10 in 1,000, something like that. Still extremely unlikely. I want to be very, very clear on this. What they're saying happened is extremely unlikely. It's not impossible. And the odds go up if it was a higher ballistic coefficient projectile. Again, we don't even know what type of projectile it was. We don't know if it was full metal jacket. We don't know if it was a open tip match. We don't know if it was a soft point. All of those other factors would also have to be factored into what I'm saying, but we don't know any of those variables rather, so I can't say it. Then if you were to tell me that it was like a 180 grain projectile, full metal jacket, let's say, I would tell you that it's about as low as possible. So I don't know, 1 in 50,000 chance that could happen, right? So the odds change, right, based on the input that is happening. However, in all cases, it is very unlikely that what we are being told actually happened. And the only way I can really think of in terms of if the FBI and other law enforcement agencies actually want the American people to be confident in the story we're being told is to release more information. So for example, if this happened and the bullet actually stayed in Charlie's upper torso, what you'd expect to see on video, and again, I haven't seen it yet, what you would expect to see is when the bullet impacts him, if it was deflected down into his chest cavity, you would expect to see the chest cavity go like that. For those of you guys who watch a lot of ballistics videos, you'll know that that is called the temporary cavity, right? So when a high power rifle round like a 30-06 impacts fleshy material, it goes through, and it's going through so fast that fleshy material is obviously almost all water, so you can't compress water. And so because of that, the bullet's going through so fast, the water material, the flesh material, can't expand as fast as the bullet is going through, so it kind of pushes everything out with some violence away from the bullet path, if that makes sense. So you typically will see something like that happen. Now, I've seen two pretty good high definition videos of this. I haven't observed that behavior at all in Charlie's torso. However, I have no idea what the frame rate those videos are at. So again, I can't say definitively, but I would say that if it was a 30-06 and it was contained within his chest cavity, I would expect to see that happen within his chest for a brief moment in time. We don't see that. However, even with that, if that did happen and there was what is called the temporary cavity, temporary stretch cavity, some people call it, as well as you'll have a permanent cavity, which is what is actually crushed and destroyed by the path of the bullet, that would be very easily seen in an autopsy, right? So the autopsy has not been released that I have seen, and if the story that we are being told happened as it is claimed anyway, that kind of cavitation and damage would be very apparent based on what happens with any type of 30-06. I mean, again, these are very powerful rounds for sure. A lot of people will say that the AR-15 shoots an extremely powerful round. Well, again, not even close. The 30-06 is a hammer, and what we're being told, again, is very unlikely, just not impossible, to hit the point again. So with that, that really is my take on it. If you guys have questions, anything like that, feel free to post them down below in the comments section. Additionally, all the other social media where I will be posting this, you can post those questions over there as well. But that is my initial thoughts on the possibility that the official story, which again, there's a lot of holes in the official story, but the possibility that that happened ballistically, because that is kind of the area that I do know based on my experience. So that is it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Before closing the video out, just ask everyone to say a prayer for Charlie and Charlie's family and everyone around them. I can't imagine what they're going through, especially Charlie's wife. So please do that. And with that, we're going to close the video out. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.